This episode of Talk Boxing is sponsored by DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now for fights every week. And the pick of the bunch, Usyk versus Fury 2, live from Riyadh. You can buy this now at DAZN.com/boxing. And you can click the link in the description or just scan the QR code in the bottom left-hand corner. The atmosphere is buzzing, you know, there's a real intrigue on who's going to win, how it's going to go.
Fury trying to get something back that he thinks was rightfully his and back from defeat, but Usyk representing the entire country.
This is the only division in boxing where you can weigh unlimited amount of pounds heavier than your opponent. If you can, do that.
Tyson is a very proud person, and the whole Fury family, the whole team, put that extra bit of motivation into him. It's a legacy fight.
This could be the last time we see both of them in the ring if Alexander Usyk wins.
I'd like to see AJ get a win behind his belt before he fights Fury.
It's been talked about that much. I mean, we may as well bloody see it.
But more than the trilogy.
I think the trilogy has to come first.
Hey, enjoy yourself over in Riyadh. You'll probably do that by avoiding Spencer as much as possible.
Cheers, mate. I'm on the golf course.
Welcome to episode 100 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan. Today I'm joined by British heavyweight Frazer Clarke. Nice to see you, Frazer. Thanks for joining us. And of course, seemingly I couldn't do episode 100 without Spencer, who's over in Riyadh. Spence, nice to see you. I lied gamely.
Simon, Frazer, how are you both doing?
We're doing well. We're trying to work out whether the 100th show actually means that we're going to get your IQ up to 100. Do you think that's a possibility?
Simon, listen, mate, I know, look, go soul searching there, go deep into your soul,
Deep.
and I'll know that you'll find a little bit of love there for me somewhere, mate. You know it's in there, Simon.
Yes, it probably is. It's probably not love, it's probably wind. But listen, we're 100 shows up, and somehow I'm still working with you, Spence. So let's have a little look at some VT. Eddie Hearn, I think he's a coward.
Let me speak or not?
Go on.
They might want it, but what's the point of it?
Tell me, because I don't know.
Will you let me get the word in? I will.
Go on then. Can I stop flogging this horse now?
You know, I don't like the way everyone's trashing Tyson.
It's the periphery that's been a disaster, and it has been a disaster.
I will refer to him now no longer as the Gypsy King, but the Gauntlet King.
Yeah, he's
Come and say
taking
it to my
Simon
face,
Cowell.
Tyson Fury.
I know you sit there and you think, bloody hell, I wonder what it's like to be a Hall of Famer. I can see it in your eyes.
Anthony Joshua.
Don't
so
forget,
what
you're in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've just dropped Anthony Joshua like an old
I
sock.
haven't. Can't believe you just got me deleted off the WhatsApp group.
I think you should pay your bet to Piers Morgan because you made the bet and didn't pay it. And all of a sudden, we're banned.
I mean, he's getting turned on.
Really?
Yeah. He's not showing his arse.
I did not think Tyson Fury won that fight. When I saw Fury fight Wilder, I saw somebody go into that ring and stare across the ring at his opponent with really bad intentions.
Even though Fury was on the back foot, he was the dominant force in there.
New shiny studio for us.
Finally, boxing gets its own little space, you know.
Absolutely,
It's good.
mate.
It will diminish those tin pot broom cupboard IFLs and digital twerps that we have to compete with on a weekly basis. You wouldn't put your heads up Anthony Joshua's backside.
No.
Did, mate? No, you did.
Schmuck.
You've got better things to hang about with you little weasel. You're in this fabled WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
He went into a ring in front of 96,000 people with a British heavyweight and got battered. And that's the legacy that Anthony Joshua will have to look behind him in his rearview mirror and go, is that the lasting image?
Now the time is starting to come.
Well, you've got some intensity about you, boy. That is my version of Towsery. Have you removed your arse from the fence?
No,
Who's gonna
definitely
win?
got splinters on my arse right now.
Some beautiful wardrobe gear I got there. See some proper jackets. Spencer, in his ever-present, same old roll neck that he wears every single show, smells like someone's been sleeping in it for the last week.
And I will say it without blowing too much smoke up your side. I mean, you've lost weight since
you think
the
so?
100. Yeah, you're in shape, mate. You're getting there.
Fit as a fiddle, me. Maybe not mentally having to do this show, but that's a different discussion. Anyway, listen, big week, Fraze, big week. All eyes are going to be on Fury and obviously Usyk. This is an exciting fight.
Yeah.
Lots of different permutations. What's your take on it all?
So where I'm at with this one is, the first one was super exciting because we'd not seen him in the ring with each other. It was the first undisputed for so long. I think I'm still mega excited about this. It's still a massive fight and a great way to end the year for boxing. But obviously we've seen them both in the ring together. We've got half an idea of what to expect. Do I know the outcome of this fight? I think it's razor close again. I've not seen as much from Fury in the build-up as I'm used to. The last few images I've seen of him was he had a little bit of a smile on his face, having a laugh and joke in camp, a few pictures. He's got the big grizzly beard, which tells me he's been in a dark place. He's been putting the work in. And from Usyk, we get the same old, just, you know, he looks serious with an element of fun as well. And obviously, they're both going to this. It's a huge fight for boxing.
Are you very excited by the prospect of this fight? Because obviously there's fights that wet the whistle and people get very interested and very intrigued. Obviously, your fight with Fabio Wardley, where people were very invested in, different level, but notwithstanding, it's still a lot of investment.
Yeah.
Does this fight really excite you, given the fact that arguably they're the best two heavyweights on the planet?
Yeah.
We've already seen the first fight.
Yeah.
Do you get really excited by the prospect of this fight?
I do, because of the first fight. The first fight was very competitive, very good. It had its ups and down moments. So this one for me, obviously, the two best heavyweights in the division fighting against each other in the same ring. If you're a boxing fan, you can't really complain about that. Yeah, you can't really.
Spence, what's the atmosphere like over in Riyadh? You're there, not paying for your hotel bills, I suspect.
Yeah.
What's it like over there, atmosphere-wise?
Well, listen, I'm in the Fighters Hotel right now. Alexander Usyk actually has just made his entrance. He's turned up already. Tyson Fury's not quite here yet, but the atmosphere is buzzing. You know, we saw what happened in the last fight, and I agree with Frazer. You know, it was razor tight. I think that Alexander Usyk did win the fight. He had enough, you know, in the tank to get it over the line, and it's going to be a fascinating fight, this one. But yeah, there's a real intrigue on who's going to win, how it's going to go. But the atmosphere certainly is a good one over here, because people know what they're in for. You know, we've all got an opinion on this fight and how it's going to go, but none of us really know. Can Fury make those adjustments, make those minor changes that may win him the fight? Can he start better than he did in the last contest? Or is it Alexander Usyk just got his number? Has he got that better boxing IQ? I mean, we're going to find that out for sure. But Tyson Fury's been away in Malta, you know, no social media, locked himself away for 10 weeks. He's approached this fight totally different to the last fight that, you know, that he had with Alexander. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out. First time coming back from defeat. How's he have taken that one? You know, will it be the kick up the backside that he's needed, you know, to sort of like relight that fire in his belly? We're going to find all that out on Saturday night. But one thing's for sure, Tyson Fury has left no stone unturned. Alexander Usyk, by the way, looked very, very big when he come in here. Looked bulked up, very athletic, looks in great shape himself.
Fraser, a lot of debate's been had about Fury's weight and what he should come into this fight at, and that potentially he should be perhaps a stone heavier like he was in the third fight against Deontay Wilder. Where do you stand on that for Tyson?
With Tyson, I think, listen, we know him, we've seen him over the years. He's never going to look like the pristine athlete, but he sort of, his body shape, and he looks a bit more comfortable for me, that little bit more heavier. You know, I think he's got a lot more, punch resistance when he's a bit heavier. It's finding that right balance.
But what do you think? I mean, ultimately, we all know that he's not going to be chiseled. We all know that he's not going to have that physique that perhaps Anthony Joshua's got. We're not suggesting that. But when he comes in bigger, it signals that he's coming in to do a certain job. And the job that he did on Deontay Wilder was meet him in the middle of the ring and take control of the fights. Do you think that's a calling card that if he comes in heavy, like he did in the third fight, that it's going to signal that? And do you prefer him to be at that weight bigger than he was in the first fight against Usyk?
I think it would show a lot of intent, but I don't think there was much wrong with his weight last time. I think the fight was very close. So if he is coming in heavier, obviously judging on past fights, we might get a bit of an idea of his approach to the fight. But I don't think there was anything wrong with him last time. I think, like I say, it was close and a few adjustments. I'm not sure weight is one of them things that I'd be concentrating on adjusting.
OK. Paulie Malignaggi was on TalkSport last week. Let's see what he had to say.
It's the three fights with Wilder. I don't know if Wilder or Fury are the same after those three fights. Wilder certainly didn't look the same anymore. And Fury, to me, his punch resistance was always among the best. You know, he's gotten up from Deontay Wilder punches that would have caved in buildings, and now Alexander Usyk, a former cruiserweight, was hurting him and dropping him in the first fight. You know, so what is the lingering effects of the three-fight trilogy with Wilder, who is a devastating, maybe one of the most devastating punchers in history? You know, we talk about that made him, so to speak. You know, that was a tremendous rivalry that really cemented a legacy for Tyson Fury among all the other great things that he's done, like the Klitschko victory. But you know, those things sometimes stay with you you as well. So it's not just lifestyle; it's also the tough fights you had. Most guys don't survive one night with Deontay Wilder. Fury not only beat Wilder 2 out of 3 fights and probably should have won all 3, but also, survived all 3 fights. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Well, we clearly saw.
Here's the deal: be a psychoanalyst, be a therapist, be wherever you like.
Give us the winner.
Give me a name. Who wins it?
All right. I'm gonna say, you know what? I picked. Don't take me right.
That's the slowest you've talked so far, my man.
I picked Fury the first time, all right, and I lost. So don't. But I'm gonna pick Usyk. I don't think Fury has it anymore. I'm not sure he had it the same way anymore. And it's not a disrespect to Fury. I've always loved Fury. I'm just not sure he can summon it back anymore.
Spence, when you listen to that, do you share Paulie's concerns about the punch resistance? I mean, we didn't see that concern against Dillian Whyte, but then again, Dillian Whyte didn't lay a glove on him, did he? We saw it against Ngannou. We didn't see it against Jerick Chisora because he boxed his head off. Do you share that concern that ultimately the resistance has gone as a result of the 3 fights that you had with Wilder?
I don't share the concern about his punch resistance because I think we've seen him hurt in the past. We've seen him dropped by cruiserweights actually in the past. So, but it's the powers of recovery he's got, and he showed that in the Alexander Usyk fight actually. After getting knocked down and totally gone in that 9th round, he come back in the 10th and actually probably even won the 12th round. So, like, his powers of recovery is still very much there. I do share the concerns for him though, that what he said, the trilogy that he had with Deontay Wilder clearly took everything out of Deontay Wilder. We never saw him the same again. The loss of Joseph Parker and Zhale Zhang and the manner that he lost, you could clearly see the fight had been knocked out of him. And it may well have had a dent on Tyson Fury Spence, as well. I mean, that takes its toll.
But we didn't see that, Spence, just to pick up on that point. He was imperious against Dillian Whyte. So he fights Dillian Whyte after the 3rd Wilder fight. And whilst Dillian Whyte didn't get to him, Tyson showed no evidence of any lasting effects from the battles that he had with Deontay Wilder, or was that just simply the level of opposition that he had negated that concern?
Absolutely, Simon. I totally think that's exactly what it was. Dillian Whyte, you're talking about levels here, and like Alexander Usyk is possibly the greatest of this generation. His movement, his hand speed, his timing, which creates the power. I mean, Frazer, look, you might even be able to answer that question yourself. Like, boxing someone like Dillian Whyte, who's like really a fringe contender, and boxing someone like Alexander Usyk, who's a modern day great, that's when you're really going to find out whether a little bit of that fight has been knocked out of you. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely, but I think when you really think about it, they pose much different threats. Like, you're never going to say that Dillian Whyte would outbox Tyson Fury, whereas with Usyk, I think he could outbox any heavyweight, cruiserweight on the planet. So I think they're very different fighters. But I know what you're saying. I think Tyson didn't have zero fear going into the Dillian Whyte fight. I didn't think he thought he could ever lose, even on his worst day. But going into fight Usyk, I do believe that he was, from the first bell, was questioning himself. He knew this was the toughest test of his career. So, do
you think that, Fraser? Because do you think that a lot of what he said was all just bravado when he talked about him being a middleweight? I know that's ridiculous, but he talked about him being of no significance. Do you think that Tyson went in there with some apprehensions?
Absolutely, and I say that because people make this assumption that cruiserweights can't hurt heavyweights. They're completely wrong.
We know they can't. We've seen Evander Holyfield do it, haven't we?
I've been in the ring with many cruiserweights, and what they don't have in one punch power or size, they make up for in speed, combinations, and we spoke about Usyk mentally draining people. Any heavyweight boxing a natural cruiserweight, it's a thing that naturally happens because they're that little bit faster with their feet, with their hands, and things come a lot more often.
We'll get to Usyk in a minute, but I want to just dig down on Spence, or with you, Spence, because I know you watched the fight back earlier this week, and there are certain things I suspect you'd like to see Tyson Fury do more of. What are those?
The 2 things that really stand out for me for Tyson Fury, and those small margins between winning and losing this contest, is I think when we saw the start of the first contest, I think this is why, by the way, Tyson Fury will come in slightly heavier, because when the start of the first contest, it was Alexander Usyk who ran out, took the centre of the ring, and he controlled that space, that timing. That took Fury by surprise, and I think that cost him 2 or 3 rounds at the beginning of the contest, which effectively could have cost him the victory that night. And I think that for Fury to change things up, He needs to, go. He's the one that needs to start fast. He needs to control that centre of the ring. That is very, very important for me on who's going to win and lose this contest. And also, when Fury caught Usyk with that uppercut in that 6th round, what a beautiful shot that was. He timed it perfectly. He looked for it straight through the middle, but he didn't capitalise on it. He didn't jump on it. Now, was that because Alexander Usyk's legs were still very good and he used those legs and that speed and that movement to get himself out of trouble? Or was it because Fury was just too slow off the mark and never had the engine to push on again? That's what he needs to capitalise on, those 2 moments, key moments in the fight there that could have won him and lost him the contest. And I think that if he can make those adjustments, and it is a big if he can do that, then he can get victory. But, like I say, it's about Alexander Usyk as well and what he's going to do differently and what he's going to change. Like I said, I saw him earlier on. He come in here. Physically, he looked sensational, but he looked bigger as well. So what are the game plans here? What are the tactics? I mean, Frazer, you'd probably be better, talking about that with us on that one. Do you feel that Fury started maybe a little bit too slow now? Could have cost him the contest?
Well, I think I watched it again today. I think at one stage in the fight, I had Tyson Fury 5 rounds ahead. And I do think that if I was Fury and I was in Fury's team, what I looked at was the punch output. The punch output from Fury dropped massively after about 7 rounds, which allowed Usyk to then get a little bit closer to him, throw a lot more shots. He just seemed to find that second gear. And then he proceeded to take over the fight. And Fury, what you spoke about there, Spence, it's all right it's all right having them moments where you're not quite busy all the time, but I think Fury sitting on the ropes and inviting Usyk to throw flurries of 3 and 4 punches, it sort of nicks the round off you. Even if it's a close round, it just allows Usyk to just take them rounds. Fury might have landed a big shot during the round, but the volume of punches for me was the difference towards the end of the fight.
Moving on to Usyk. Do you think, it's difficult to obviously call this one because ultimately he will adjust if Fury adjusts, but do you think there's any specific adjustments that Usyk will make as a matter of course going into this fight tactically?
Tactically, I think he will know from the first fight, Fury was very good once he got his confidence, and that was after about 2 or 3 rounds. He didn't throw that uppercut. As soon as he landed that one uppercut, Fury sort of thought, well, I've landed that a little bit too easy. Yeah. I'm going to keep doing that. And he built momentum. So I think Usyk will be trying to break Tyson's rhythm, not let him get into a rhythm, because once he does, a big man with good hands, good feet, and a good boxing IQ is hard to stop. So we heard him say last time, I will not leave you alone. And I think, personally, he's going to think, the more time I'm on this guy, the more time I'm making this guy think, the less space and time I'm giving him, the more chance I've got of beating him.
Do we think we priced enough into the motivations of the two fighters? Frazer, you look at Fury. We've never seen him lose, so we don't know what he's like when it's coming back from something. We don't know how motivated he will be. But on the other side of the argument is the Usyk motivation, which is so unique. I was reading something in one of the newspapers that one of the journalists brought him a letter from someone fighting on the front in Ukraine, talking about what he means to the country, what he means to them. They're fighting, for their lives and for their country's values, and they regard him as a hero. Do you think that the motivations behind the fighters will be a defining aspect of this fight? Fury trying to get something back that he thinks was rightfully his and back from defeat, but Usyk representing the entire country.
I think it could play a massive part. If I'm in Tyson's psyche now, and I will be, next time I get in the ring, I will have the same sort of psyche in a way because I'm coming off a defeat and you want to put things right. Now, Tyson, for all the laughing, all the jokes, one thing I know from not knowing him so well, but know enough about him, he's a very proud person and you're not going to want to lose a fight. Him, the whole Fury family, the whole team, they're good. If I was them, I would have put that extra bit of motivation into him during this camp and make him know that, this is a legacy fight, basically. Like, you go and get your titles back and you're right up there in the conversation for the best heavyweight probably ever. You're in that conversation. And for Usyk, what you just said, there isn't too much more that needs saying. When you're fighting for your country, I've done that myself again in Olympic Games, but when your country's in a war, that's a totally different motivation.
Spence, you've seen Usyk quite a few times, especially in Poland when he fought Dubois. And you've seen the impact he has on people, right?
Absolutely, Simon. Listen, when we were out in Poland, we was actually on the border there of the Ukraine as well, just I don't know, 50 kilometres away from the border or whatever. So there was a lot of Polish that were living in and around that area, and it was incredible the way that they turned out. And he is a proud man, and he represents his country, and it means so much to him. So, going through these times and what his country's going through, he lives through that. We've seen him go back to war for his country, etc., and the people absolutely love him. So when you're talking about motivation, what better motivation can you have than that? Alexander Usyk is a very proud man and a man that loves his country. That is for sure. For Tyson Fury, on the other hand, I think that I think Fury may have underestimated Alexander last time out. Thought that maybe he just had to turn up to get the victory. Yeah, it was going to be hard, but he never expected it to be the way that it was, and he never expected him to be able to get hurt the way that he did. And I think that might be the kick up the arse that he needed, and that's why we may see a different Tyson Fury. This is the interesting thing going into this contest here, is we do not know what that loss has done to Tyson Fury. Will it feed him? Will it motivate him? Or will it have dented his confidence even more? We'll only find that out on Saturday. But personally, knowing Fury and the way that he is, and the proud man that he is, and the guy that just the character he is, I think that's why he's locked himself away for 10 weeks. I think he's going to be totally motivated. He's going to come in slightly heavier. He's going to try and stamp his authority early on. He knows what he's going into now, and he knows what he needs to do, the adjustments. I think actually he'll feed off it.
It's interesting, Frazer, because Spencer makes the point that he thinks that Fury underestimated Usyk, whereas you make the point that he went in there with apprehensions about Usyk. So there's two different analyses of the same situation. When you look at Usyk, and he talks about never coming off you, never leaving you alone, how tiring is Usyk a fighter to fight against? I've heard Tony Bellew talk about the nature of he makes you work all the time, every minute of every round, however he does it. But how tiring will that be, or how tiring is it?
Oh, it makes it a really, really tough night work. We can speak about the size all you want, but when there's someone in front of you and they're not leaving you alone, they're not going away, it becomes hard, not just physically, but mentally. And I think even in that first fight, Tyson, the moments when Usyk was pressuring him and he was landing them shots, I seen Fury was like slipping and sliding, and not all the shots were connecting, but they were still coming at him. So you have to defend them in one way or another. And then there's the constant feinting, the different little angles, the different looks, and Fury's got all that body to hit. There was a few shots in there in that first fight where there were nothing shots really, but he's non-stop touching you. He's non-stop in your face.
Which is engaging you mentally as well as physically.
So you're thinking, what's coming next? But on the counter side of that, for me, is the more time Alexander Usyk is there hitting you, the more chances you have to be counter-punching. I mean, when I watched it back this morning, there was a couple of times Tyson counter-punched, but only a couple. I mean, if he looks back and analyses the fight and he picks them numbers up, the fight is even closer once again. So it's very intriguing, but in a nutshell, to fight Alexander Usyk, you don't just fight typical heavyweight style, 2 minutes of every round where you nick a few seconds here and there.
You're fighting all minutes.
You're fighting 3 minutes of every round.
Round 9 was quite an important round, Spence. It sparked controversy. It also raised the question as to Usyk knocked him down. I think the referee got in the way and gave Fury a chance. But during that round, there was the question about why Usyk didn't take him out. He had the opportunity to take him out. Does he have the power to take Fury out? Do you think that's a concern?
Absolutely, Simon. I think going into that round 9, Tyson Fury had pulled himself back into the fight in many ways. And, I think that Fury was carrying that backhand in front of his chin, and Usyk was sizing that left hand up all the time. He went round the corner with that shot and landed it beautifully, took Fury's legs away. And then that was the difference, the combination punching. He sensed that he hurt Fury, put his foot on the gas, landed combinations, and he had him going. And yes, the controversy is around the referee, the referee jumping in. I think the referee actually jumped in because Fury was going down and the referee thought he was actually going to hit the floor, but he hit the bottom rope and come back up. So Alexander Usyk could have continued pushing forward, and maybe he should have done that and let that left hand go, but he didn't do it. The bell rang, and then that was the controversy surrounding should it have been stopped, shouldn't it have been stopped. It's always going to be there. That cloud's always going to be there. But to Fury's credit, he come back really well in those last 3 rounds after that traumatic round he had in round 9. But round 9 was the turning point of that contest there. And that's the adjustment Fury needs to make. He had his right hand, his backhand, in front of his face, and he was touching his nose, was leaving a big gap round the side. Usyk has a great boxing IQ, and he saw that. He was teeing him up with that left hand the whole time. And once it lands, heavyweight boxing, that can turn a fight around, and that turned that fight around for sure.
What did you make? I mean, where were you on the decision that the referee took in that moment? If you was the fighter that was in the offensive and the ascendancy, would you have been happy with the referee getting what I thought was in the way of the opportunity to take Fury out?
Oh no, I'd have been fuming.
Yeah.
I'd have been fuming, and let's have it right. I think timing is everything in that round. I think if that happens 30 seconds earlier, I think the fight does get stopped, and quite, in a good fashion as well. It seemed to Tyson's powers of survival came into play. He just made himself big and made himself awkward to hit. And as we watched the VT there was a couple of shots that missed him by an inch or so. And if they do hit him, we might be having a different conversation now.
But do you think the ref was right with what he did, though? Because Spencer alludes to the idea that he thought he was going down and so ultimately intervened. Frank Warren talked the other day about the fact the bell sounded 2 or 3 seconds later anyway. But do you think, irrespective of the frustration you might have felt as a fighter, when you look at that without the emotional investment of being a participant, do you think the referee made the right decision, or do you think it was the wrong one?
I think he made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I do too.
I think the stakes are so high. It's undisputed heavyweight championship. You've got to be to the point and by the book as such. But that was counted as a knockdown, that round. I'm correct in saying that was a 10-8 round.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
So essentially, he did get knocked down anyway. Yeah. But I think you talk about stopped. The finish. Yeah, he might have completely finished. And yeah, you're right.
If Usyk were to win, Frazer, do you think that's the last? Given the fact that if he beats Fury again, he'll have beaten Fury twice. Yeah. He'll have beaten Joshua twice. Yeah. He'll have beaten Dubois, who's obviously the current IBF champion.
Yeah.
He's fought everybody. Do you think this is the last time we'll see him in the ring?
I think so, just because I don't see the caliber of opposition there for him to beat. Like I don't see the next one quite coming through to the other big name to challenge him. Like at one point there was Wilder, Joshua, Fury, and Usyk. Wilder sort of fell off. Joshua lost to Dubois. He's beat him twice as well. I don't know what would get him up to fight anyone else. And to be fair, who is mixing in that bracket? So I think he could hang the gloves up, with real pride, having done something amazing. He's completely conquered Britain, which in the heavyweight division, that's an applaud in itself. Yeah, so I think that could be the end.
Any rumblings? Are you hearing any noises, Spence, as to what that might look like if he were to win over in Riyadh? Are you concurring with Frazer's observation?
Yeah, I'm sort of leaning towards what Frazer was saying there. That's a general consensus, I think, out here. Is it if Alexander Usyk wins again this rematch, where does he go from there? Like, he's sort of conquered all the top fighters in the world, and it'd be 37 years of age. It'd be a perfect time to then go out unified champion again. He's been undisputed heavyweight champion, undisputed cruiserweight champion. What else is there left to achieve? You've beaten everyone of that modern era, so he may sail off into the sunset. He's earned enough money, and for Tyson Fury, if he loses, where does he go? What is he looking to do? Is it a fight with, say, Tyson, Anthony Joshua, or does he decide that he's had enough? And if he wins, do we get the rubber match? There's loads of different ways that this could go, but you never know, guys, right? This could be the last time we see both of them in the ring if Alexander Usyk wins.
Do you think there's any appetite if Daniel Dubois were to take care of Joseph Parker, which I think he will? Yeah. Given some of the controversy that raged over the first fight between Dubois and Usyk in terms of the knockdown, the low blow, and all the disputes, there's a fight that could have some resonance. It then gives him another opportunity to have another crack at undisputed, so he becomes twice undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, and also potentially vanquish the spirit of any doubt that Dubois hurt him, created problems for him, and was slightly robbed in the first fight. Can you see that, Frazer?
That is my only saving grace, to see Alexander Usyk in the ring again, I think, because not that he has to go and fight him again. He's beaten once, but always seeing a new version of Daniel Dubois that I'd be interested in that fight.
Yeah,
I'd like to see this new version of Dubois against Usyk. But then we're going to get the question, aren't we? Or is Usyk, if he loses to Dubois as he had one fight too many.
Yeah.
So, but I'd still be interested as a boxing fan. I think that's a great fight, providing they both do the business.
I agree. I'm pleased to say former middleweight champion of the world, Darren Barker, has joined Spencer live in Riyadh. Darren, nice to see you, mate. How much are you looking forward to this fight?
Oh, I mean, how can you not be looking forward to this fight? Look, I think the first fight, probably with the history of it being the first undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis, you could say it probably, as far as the history books are concerned, probably meant more. But this fight for me is arguably more intriguing now because of how good the first fight was and how many swings and roundabout and twists and turns there were in the fight. Look, I think for me, I have to favour Usyk because he's already won the fight. He has a win over Tyson Fury. But I would be far from shocked, Ben, if Fury was to win this fight.
Absolutely. Listen, Darren, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Like the way that Fury started this first fight, or the way that Alexander Usyk started the first fight, surprised me, surprised everyone. Now, I know that you're working live on DAZN covering the fight out here. And what was the general take with the people that you were working with on there? Because I was surprised how Usyk controlled the ring the way that he controlled it. And he was pushing Fury to corner and making him go on the ropes. People thought that Fury was going on the ropes, but that was Usyk making him, and that was the thing that really surprised me. Yeah. And it's whether Tyson Fury can turn that around.
He said, didn't he? Usyk said from the off, "I'm not going to leave you alone," and I wasn't sure if that was a possibility, but he did. He held the centre ring and he was pushing back the bigger man, and I wouldn't bet against Tyson Fury coming in this fight a bit heavier this time and trying to be the bully himself. This is heavyweight boxing, Ben. This is the only division in boxing where you can weigh unlimited amount of pounds heavier than your opponent. Well, if you can, do that. Get that size, get that presence, get that power into the fight, and he needs to do that.
Darren, in the build-up to the last fight, we saw a very vociferous and cocky Tyson Fury about the opponent that he was facing. Yeah. Now, obviously, having lost the fight, he's going to be slightly different, but are you expecting to see Tyson much more humble during the course of this week, and for want of a better expression, a more serious sort of eye of the tiger fighting mentality?
I hope we see that, Simon, if I'm honest with you. I'm not so much sure about the humble side of things, but the more of the eye of the tiger side of things, I think. If he really wants to create unbelievable legacy and be remembered as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, a win here against Usyk is required.
Absolutely, Darren, that's what I wanted to say. Like him taking himself away to Malta, locking himself away for the best part of 12 weeks, no social media, recognises he's got to leave no stone unturned to win this fight. And I think that's, we're going to see a guy that's coming in slightly heavier. He'll try and take that center ring. I think that is important for this contest right from the opening bell, and I think that's where the fight really, Simon, is won and lost here. But it's all about Fury, his motivation, his training, his camp. And we're going to find that out. He's turning up here, actually, in this hotel. He's turning up here about 8 p.m. tonight. So it'd be great to get a first look at him because no one's really seen him too much in the flesh. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, I think probably when I said humble, I don't mean I expect him to be eating humble pie, but it's going to be difficult for him, Frazer, to be particularly given it a big one this week, for want of a better expression, because of the fact he's coming off the back of a defeat. Do you think that he will? Do you think he'll be the usual Fury, verbose, confident, full of himself? Or do you think he might be a little bit more contrite, keep it on the down low and let it happen on Saturday night?
I think Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury, and I don't ever think he's putting an act on. I think he is what he is. Yeah. So I expect him to be a little bit more humble, just only if people show him round 9 again, because that humbles anyone. When you took that kind of punishment in a round, you have no choice but to be humble. If not, you can come across a bit stupid sometimes. If you're going to be cocky after what happened in the first fight. But no, I expect him to be a character as usual and entertaining the fans and the people watching. But I hope, in one sense, he's still got in the back of his mind, showmanship, because that's who he is.
Absolutely.
What I mean?
What about the mind games? I mean, we've seen Fury in the past has been a master of mind games. Yeah. I loved it when he did the the Batman outfit and dealt with Vladimir Klitschko and got him off balance and said, I'm going to lick that clit and whatever else dreadful things he said at the time, which I thought were quite funny. But this time around, it's been more about Usyk turning up in the hitman look and then getting Fury to sign a photograph of Usyk bashing him up in the first fight. Is there an underestimation of the mind games that Usyk's been playing with Fury to get him off balance for the second fight?
I think it was very subtle. It was subtle in a way that it wasn't too much over the top, but obviously it made us all question. I can remember when Klitschko brought the USB to the Andy Joshua fight, and it's just got you thinking. I mean, the hitman thing. Obviously, if you know about a hitman, then you sort of understand that's quite an intent. Without saying nothing, that is something. I don't think it played too much of a part, if I'm honest. This is high stakes boxing, the biggest of the biggest. Nothing until you get in the ring really matters, but it's good to see that intent from Usyk.
Darren, where are you on the mind games? I mean, again, I put the same question to you. I think Usyk has, in the past, not been a major participant or practitioner of mind games. In this one, he's been more evidently on that sort of mindset. Do you think it will play any parts in Fury and the likely preparation he has for the fight?
I don't think so, Simon, if I'm honest, but there is this air of confidence that Alexander Usyk has had around him since he first turned pro. Even going back in the amateurs, watching him in the WBS, he's just been so confident, and he lives and breathes this sport. And I think that is probably the most frightening part of Usyk, the self-belief that man has.
But Darren, he walked in here just about, an hour ago or so, and he walked past first chance we've got to see him. He looked bigger, stronger, but looked still athletic. And like you say, there's that air of confidence around him. It's interesting to see, I know you're covering this live on DAZN, interesting to see who you're working with out there and what are their thoughts on this return and whatnot and how this fight's going to go.
Yeah, look, I think everyone understands that this is one hell of a fight. It's a close one to call because look, let's get it right. Those middle rounds for Tyson Fury were clear. They were decisive and they were hurtful rounds, and they put a dent in Alexander Usyk. I think round 6 was massive for me for Fury, and there was a point in that round where I thought Usyk was starting to wilt, and he could go here. He was working the body well. He was getting the size into play, and I think that's why he needs to be dominant on the front foot here. Lots of variation with a movement, side to side on the front foot, work the body. We know he's a little vulnerable around the body, Usyk, but he's got to remain on point throughout. He can't switch off. And that's what we see a little bit Fury doing before, just playing games a little bit too much, switching off, chin high, getting a little bit too relaxed. He needs to be on it this time and stay on it throughout.
Darren, if Usyk wins this fight, do you think it's the last time we see him in the ring? How do the boxing tectonic plates shift if he now has beaten Fury for the second time round? What do you think happens now on that landscape?
Well, I find that question easy to answer now, Simon, just because we've literally just spoken to him here at the media day, and he gave us an answer to why he's still boxing, and his answer is he loves the sport. He lives and breathes it. He feels at home. He feels happy when he's in the ring. He's doing what he enjoys doing most in life. So I think we're going to see, if he was to beat Fury, continue to fight and dominate for a long time.
Young Master Hearn was on TalkSport with me last week. Let's hear what he has to say.
The one question I get, doesn't matter where I am, but particularly in the UK, is when are we seeing AJ against Fury? And sometimes, if that's a casual fan, I might say, well, AJ got beat by Dubois and Fury's fighting Usyk. He says, yeah, I don't care about that. When are they fighting each other? So it will always be there, and it will always be there if Fury loses. But if he can somehow win, and that fight can be for the Unified World Heavyweight Championship, that will tick so many boxes, and particularly for AJ personally, because the reality is, as dangerous as the Dubois rematch might be, you know what he's like. He wants it, and he knows that it comes with a World Heavyweight Championship. So if we can do that by fighting Tyson Fury, that would be brilliant. And that's why we've got everything crossed that he can somehow find a way to win next week.
Frazer, if Fury is to win, where are you? Are you in the mindset you want to see him fight Joshua over the trilogy with Usyk? Which is what Eddie Hearn's advocating for.
Well, of course he is.
I know he is, yeah.
But I'd love to see the fight, the Fury Joshua fight, just because it's been lingering for so long. Like, it's been talked about that much. I mean, we may as well bloody see it. Because
more than the trilogy?
No. I think the trilogy has to come first. If it's one apiece and Joshua coming off a loss, it doesn't. In a sporting sense, it doesn't make sense for me for him to go and fight for the belts. Then, do you know what I mean? So, no, I'd like to see the trilogy.
Darren, where are you on that?
Say that again, sorry, Simon.
Where are you? I mean, I've just put the question to Frazer about if Fury beats Usyk, is it your desire to see him fight Joshua next or to complete the trilogy with Usyk?
Do you know what? Look, we want to see Fury AJ, don't we? But I'd like to see AJ get a win behind his belt before he fights Fury. I don't know. Look, either way, we're winning. I think they're massive fights.
Listen, we've talked about modern eras and legacies and the best fighting the best. Well, we've had that now. We've got them all. The only one that we ain't had is AJ versus Fury. And love it or hate it, and AJ coming off that crushing defeat to Daniel Dubois, it's still a huge, huge fight. It's a fight that we want to see. So after this fight, I think we've had 2 fights with Usyk and Joshua. Tyson Fury. I would like to see that fight with him and Anthony Joshua. I really would. I think that the world, the casual fan, would really want to see it. It's interesting, Darren. I want to ask you one thing, mate, as well. What is your feeling on this fight? Do you think that Alexander Usyk wins it? Do you think that Tyson Fury wins it? And what about the people that you're working with on DAZN? What are their general feelings on it?
Yeah, we've got a great team. Again, I think we've got Andy Lee, Joseph Parker, who will be having a keen eye on this fight, as we know. Myself, Adam Smith, Barry Jones on commentary, Sergio Mora as well. And I would say the majority of us are leaning towards Usyk. And I think that's because he's got the win. And a big question here as well. A lot of people saying that, the information that Usyk requires after a 12-round fight with somebody makes him so almost unbeatable, even more unbeatable than the time before because of the information and how good of a fighter he is. But if you look at the rematches that Fury's had, John McDermott, Derek Chisora and Wilder, he's done better in every single one. Where if you look at Usyk's rematch, his sole rematch to Anthony Joshua, well, you'd have to say Anthony Joshua did better in that rematch. So even though he's got 12 rounds of data, if you want to call it that, information from that first 12 rounds that he shared with Anthony Joshua, Anthony Joshua done better. So though I've got Usyk a very slight favourite in this fight, I would be far from shocked if Fury was to get the job done. And like I said, I'll go back to that 6th round. Watch that 6th round again. If he can commit and replicate that round throughout, he can win this fight.
So have you picked a winner?
I'm leaning towards Usyk. Yeah,
Usyk.
Just because he already has a win over Fury, yeah.
Right, you, fence sitter, where are you?
I'm sitting next to my fellow Barnet man. If I'm honest, I'm going to lean towards Alexander Usyk as well. I just think that, you look at what we saw in that last fight, and everyone's talking about Tyson Fury and making those adjustments. Alexander Usyk as well. He's the guy with a better IQ. So, can he make adjustments to make the fight easier? I'm hedging my bets on Alexander Usyk winning.
And quickly, look, he said about Usyk being a middleweight. How can this guy hurt me? We found out in that first fight that Usyk can hurt Fury. And the belief that will give Usyk is going to be massive.
Where are you, Frazer?
Yeah, I'm Usyk again, mate. I think he would have improved it as much as Tyson did, and I think he has the ability to change during the fight and do what he needs to do.
Brilliant. Okay, three Usyks. I'm going Fury, but I suspect mine will be the least meaningful of the 3 opinions. Darren, thanks for joining us, mate. Enjoy yourself over in Riyadh. You'll probably do that by avoiding Spencer as much as possible.
Cheers, mate. I'm on the golf course.
Have fun. Like with all these events in Riyadh, there's an undercard that enacts curiosity and intrigue, and there's big fights. And there's a couple on there that will intrigue us because they're involving some of our fighters. First one out is Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. Yeah. I mean, you will know both these boys relatively well. Yeah. How do you see that fight playing out, Frazer? I mean, you fought Dave Allen recently, didn't you?
I fought Dave Allen, and he's very tough. He's very durable. And again, I think, the biggest part in this game, one of the biggest parts, is the mentality. I'm not sure how much he gets up for these fights anymore. Yeah, he had a big opportunity to fight against me, and he almost swallowed it. He sort of quit. That's his words. His words was that he didn't want to be in there anymore. He got out of there. Johnny Fisher is on the ascendance. He's learning all the time. He's looking better in all his fights. He's very devastating early on. I'm intrigued in this fight because I want to see what he's like after 4 rounds. Dave Allen can be tough, can be durable if he turns up. But these opportunities don't come along very often, so I imagine he'll be right up for it. A good fight, but I think Fisher, younger, fresher, and on the ascendance, I think he wins it and wins it quite well.
Where are you on that one, Spence? Where are you on that one?
Yeah, I'm sort of with Frazer on that one as well. You think that momentum's all with Johnny Fisher coming off that first round knockout against Alan Babbage, and you see the improvements with him working under the watchful eye of Mark Tibbs, and you know he's a grafter and he works really hard. You look at it and it's all with him, but I interviewed Dave Allen earlier on, actually, and, you know, the guy's in a good headspace right now. He said, look, you know, you go back to when he lost to David Price back in 2019, and he said the fight had sort of left him then. You know, the love for the sport had left him, a little bit of depression setting in, etc., etc. But he's rediscovered himself, refound himself, fell in love with the sport again, and obviously getting the opportunity to box out in Saudi Arabia, you know, on this Riyadh season card, on this fight, you know, the undercard of the biggest fight in boxing, essentially, right now. He said there's, you know, really motivating him. He's going to give it everything. He said he goes in there, he's had 12-week training camp, he's in great shape, and he said you're going to find out more about him than you will me. He said, because I'm going to go for it non-stop. It's a great fight, actually, because it tells us a little bit about where Johnny Fisher's at, the improvements that he's made, and see if he's becoming a serious contender right now. But, you know, the momentum is with Fisher, so you got to go with him.
Where do you think, I mean, ultimately, Johnny Fisher describes himself as a wet weekend in Stoke. I don't think that's right, but I understand the analogy and the metaphor. Where do you think Johnny Fisher is headed towards, Spence?
Well, that's a great question, Simon, because I think that until we see him, you know, put under that pressure, we've not really seen that with Johnny Fisher as of yet, so we don't know what sort of character he is when he has to get down in the trenches and bite down on his gum shield a little bit. I definitely see him at British title level, and then you're talking about European title level, and then that's a huge step up into that world class, because that fringe contender stage of world class, that can be tough, and that's where all the young guns are now coming in. You know, another guy that's boxing on the card here, Moses Atoma against Dempsey McKean. What a fight that is, by the way, because Moses Atoma, and I think we agree on this, Simon. Yeah. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, actually, Frazer. You know, for me, Moses Atoma, he's the kid that is going to be the next star of heavyweight boxing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You know, I mean, I know I'm in this division and there's so many more, but I think, you know, if I just use my boxing head, and obviously I've been around the game a long time, I can remember watching this guy come through the European Championships and stop everyone, and that just doesn't happen, Spencer. Like, so from then I knew this guy was going to be serious, and it's not just that. I think the attitude of him, you know, he's so serious about what he does, and I think I like Dempsey, and you know, I've spent a little bit of time with him here and there when he was sparring with Joshua for the Usyk and stuff, but I think Moses Atoma, his rate of improvement and the hunger he's got to improve and impress, I think he's levels above what he's fighting at, but I understand the way that, you know, there's no need to rush him because he's so young and he's got so much time. So I think Frank Warren's doing a fantastic job with him, taking the right fights at the right time.
I'm right in this analysis that Dempsey McKean went in against Hrgovic, didn't he?
Yeah.
And made it a difficult fight for Hrgovic.
Yeah.
So he's going in against a fighter that's got some degree of pedigree against that sort of level. What is it about? I mean, I know it's difficult for you to talk about another fighter, and primarily, you know, ultimately you want to tread the right line, but so much noise is being made about Moses, and I always am reluctant to get into that sort of bandwagon because it puts an inordinate amount of pressure on a young kid. But when we talk about him as being a special fighter, I've seen him fight 2 or 3 times. He's ferocious. He seems to have that intensity that other fighters in previous generations have had, and people are likening him to Mike Tyson because he has that ability to cover the ring quickly and lets his hands go. But when we talk about Moses Atoma as a real prospect, what is it you think this kid's got that ultimately makes everyone look at him in such a way that thinks that, like they did about Daniel Dubois a few years ago, he's going to be a world champion?
I think IQ is a big thing. I think he's not just someone that can knock you out. I think he could outbox you quite easily if it became difficult. I mean, listen, I have no shame in saying, like, obviously, I fought Marius Wack and it was 10 difficult rounds for me, and I think he destroyed him.
He did.
In a few rounds. And the thing I could see in there was the patience. I could see his brain, you know, during the fight, picking the right shots. He's very good at picking his shots and picking his moments. And then it's like all of a sudden, an explosion. Yeah. And once he gets you hurt, he seems heavy-handed in both hands, and he
finishes.
Yeah, he takes you out, and he does that with accuracy and obviously that intent to
Good
take
test for him,
that.
isn't it, Dempsey McKee?
Oh, it's great
a good
fight.
test.
Great fight.
It's a good test. Right, Fraser, let's move on from all that and let's get into you. How are you after the Wardley fight?
I'm good now, Simon.
Yeah.
It's been it was a difficult time, a difficult defeat to take. But you find out a lot about yourself as an athlete and as a person in times of adversity. So it's like I say, it was a difficult time at first, but it's got better, you know, with the help of family and friends and just myself, basically.
What have you found out about yourself? I mean, ultimately, I picked you for that fight, and I didn't anticipate it, and I'm damn sure you didn't. The fight to go the way that it did, and obviously, a lot of people were disturbed by the pictures that they saw, and I suspect for you as a fighting man, it was difficult to get yourself together. But what have you learned through this process of time? The situation was a situation. You got knocked out heavy. People were concerned about your well-being. And then ultimately about your motivation going forward. What did you learn directly after the fight? What have you been processing in your mind?
So I learned that in boxing, there's good, bad, and ugly. But I have to commend a lot of people in boxing and general public that were just concerned about my health. And I found out how important that is, you know, to myself and my family. Because you can get lost in boxing sometimes. You become a bit selfish and you only care about the sport and the results. But I found out, you know, there's so much more to me than just being a boxer, and I thank you to the public and the people in boxing for giving me that support, because it's been great.
I mean, I have a great love of boxing, and in other spaces I've done a lot of conversations with a lot of different people about what it's like to be in certain moments. Carl Froch when he got dropped by George Groves, or Nigel Benn when he fought Joe McClellan. But I want to ask you what it was going through your head when you get hit by the shots that you get hit, and ultimately the shot that really concerned people was the shot that people saw, you know, where your face drops. What's going through your mind? Is there anything going through your mind at that time? Are you going into preservation mode? Are you in great pain? Are you all over the place? What's going on?
Well, first off, I thought, what am I doing here? I was like halfway down. I thought, I've just been hit with a big shot. And after that, you know, if people have watched it back, they'll see that despite the shots I got caught with, I was trying to fight back right until I couldn't. I was trying. And then I remember being outside the ring, looking up at the screen and seeing the disturbing image. And we're in a different country, you know, translation was difficult. And then I'm in the back of an ambulance with my partner. And the only word I'm listening to is brain. Right. And that's when things got a bit scary. I'm thinking about my life insurance. I'm thinking about everything.
All that's going through your mind.
It's all going through my mind in an ambulance where the communication isn't that great. I'm in a hospital and I know that I'm going for a brain scan. Once I come out of the brain scan, and they quickly, my missus, bless her, found an English-speaking doctor who come over and just said, listen, you know, everything's all right in the brain. You've got a fractured cheekbone, and you know, a bit of, but you need a little bit of an operation to put your jaw back where it needs to be. As soon as I heard that, believe it or not, it's still quite bad to the normal person, but for me, it was like, I'm okay, you know, because you think about, again, selfishly, the first thing going through my head is, am I going to be able to box again? You know, once I got that information that I'm okay, it's a cheekbone, which I've had done before. You know, I injured the same injury when I fought Joe Joyce in 2012, so that was like a big weight off my shoulders. But it wasn't nice, Simon. You know, like
no, mate, I'm sure
it's heavyweight boxing, and it's all right saying, you know, that's heavyweight boxing. It can go like that. You never want it to go like that ever.
Yeah, Fraser, I actually saw you at the airport, didn't I, you know, after the fight, and there was big concerns for us because we saw the disfigurement in your face when that shot had landed, and we didn't know exactly the extent of the injury and how it was. And obviously being in a foreign country, over in Saudi Arabia, the treatment you was going to get, but actually you had first-class treatment. To see you at the airport and what they had done in pushing your cheekbone effectively back out, and the way that they done it was like, that was superb. The treatment that you had out here was incredible, wasn't it? First class, and you can only commend the doctors for what they achieved out here, because it was a worrying time, not just for yourself, but your family as well. Like, life after boxing, you got to remember there is a big life after boxing, and that was a scary time, a worrying time, but you was well looked after.
Absolutely, Spencer. I can remember the doctor coming to me and he told me that he'd been summoned. That's his words. He was summoned by a Turkey al-Sheikh to get to the hospital and to look after me. And you know, I'll be forever grateful for them moments, because again, you get lost in boxing. You really do. Obviously, there's lights, there's camera, there's action, there's fighting. But in them moments there, you find out a lot about people. And I've got two beautiful children and a life outside of boxing, and that was the main concern then. And there was a lot of people that made sure I was okay and checked up on me, just so I could get home and be okay going forward. And luckily, you know, I'm made of the right stuff. I'm tough, and I've healed up well, and I'm more determined than ever, you know, to get back on track.
Well, that's the question I'm going to ask you. I mean, everyone that sees you for the first time since that fight is going to dwell on that particular moment, and I'm sure you don't want to dwell on it because it's part of the past now, and it's not a moment you do want to dwell on. So the question then must abound: where are you psychologically, and what next for you? Are you still in the motivated mindset to go, okay, that was then, this is now, this is what I'm going to do next?
Absolutely, Simon. I think people will say, well, that's the easy thing to say, but it's not, because in them scary moments, was there a minute where you question, oh my God, you know, like family members crying, my daughter was terrified, and I've got a bit of a dent in my head, I'm not looking like her daddy. But you know, as time goes on, and it's cliche to say, but this sport is my life, and it's a thing I enjoy doing. Just like Alexander Usyk said, he'll carry on. You know, that's not the first injury I've had. It probably won't be the last, though I'd like it to be. I'm motivated more than ever. And when I look at the division, especially in the UK right now, you know, we got Fabio Wardley, and you know, I want to commend him as well. And he sent me some very nice messages, so thank you to him and
as you would have done in his place, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would have done it. So I think he's going to move on to the next level, rightly so. You know, he had a great victory over me. But I think there's a few of us floating around just in that, you know, that little bubble, mid-table.
So what does that look like? We had David Adelaide in the other day.
Yeah, my mate.
And actually, I was very impressed with him. You know, I didn't like some of the behaviour in the past from David, but when I met him the other day for the second time, I thought he was in very good form. And obviously, the form in his most recent fight was pretty spectacular.
Good.
Is he someone on your radar?
I think it'd be a great fight, you know, for the British public down the line. You know, I think I need to not down the line. I think I need to get back in the ring in the new year, early new year, and then in the summer, you know, I think me and David Adelaide would be a great fight. But there's other names as well. You know, I want to see what goes on with Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen.
Yep.
Moses Atuma, he's a great name. He's doing great things, and I'm not sure where he wants to go now. He's probably only looking forward. But you know, I think there's enough names in the division in Britain. There's some great fights we made, and we can still push on and still go.
Has it reset any of your ambitions, Frazer? Because obviously the first fight was billed in a certain way, and because it was such an epic first fight, everybody looked at it in a completely different way than perhaps they initially approached the first fight with. And then ultimately the second fight went the way it was. But you would have had ambitions and a direction of travel, which were to go up the ladder to as far as you could possibly. Has it reset those? Is it just one of those moments in time that you think you can learn more from as a result of adversity than potentially success? Although it sounds a bit arse about face, but you know what I mean.
No, it's not. You know, I'm still on the same path. I slightly came off it for a minute. I'm going to jump straight back on and go for it again. Like I say, I believe I was the best version of myself going into that fight. But ultimately, this is a results business, Simon. And, you know, if you end up on your arse in a hospital bed with your hand not being raised, then it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's the reality of it. So I think now it's, like I say, it's about finding out about yourself and how much do you want it. It's time for me to, you know, to get back and get stuck in and, you know, let the results do the talking.
Well, fair play to you, mate. Well, good luck with that. My only disappointment is that I was hoping that you might not be fighting anymore, so I can get rid of Spencer and get you to come on here and do this with me.
One day, Simon, one day.
Right, that's it for episode 100 of Talk Boxing. Spencer over in Riyadh.
Yeah, Simon, thanks so much, mate, and I'm glad that I've had to put up with you for 100 episodes, mate, and you've learned under my watchful eye and my guidance. I've got you, sort of into the sport of boxing, and long may that continue, mate. Frazer Clarke, glad to have you back, by the way. It's great, a very inspirational story. Good to see you're in a good space now, and we're going to get you back in the ring. So great for that, mate.
See you, Spence.
Always great chatting to you, Simon.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.